Hello everyone. Welcome to today's session. This is the first webinar of this, it's actually financial year because what we usually do is we have a calendar of webinars from usually from April to March of the following year. So this is the first webinar. Actually presented one last week, but this is more like more practical strategies and tips for teachers and teacher educators to take away. So I'm happy to introduce Salome, who will be presenting some strategies on how teachers can reduce their level of stress when teaching, and she's going to share a variety of ideas that you can use both online and offline. So welcome everyone. Please introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you actually connecting from. So before I give the floor to Salome, I would like to just share a few housekeeping items. Introducing the chat. So the chat is actually open now. So we invite you to introduce yourself. And please mute your microphone if you're not speaking, and use the chat only to ask questions to the presenter. Questions should be also related to the theme of the day, which is stress-free teaching through strategies for both time management and resource management. And don't share any information such as email addresses, phone numbers, because we'll be removing those for privacy purposes. So at the end of the webinar, we'll share a link to the feedback form, and those who complete the feedback form will also receive a certificate of attendance. So we invite you all to tell us what you think about events, so we can, definitely improve future events of that sort. So the recording will also be shared on Teach English Africa. Usually it's 24 hours to 48 hours after the webinar, and we'll also send you a notification via email, so you can check the recording, in case you missed some points. But also would like to share the session with other teachers like you. So enough of me. I'll just want to give the floor to Salome. Salome, over to you.
Hey, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Salome Ikokoyo, and I'm a Nigerian. I've been teaching for 19 years now. I teach senior secondary. I'm also a trainer of teachers in a college of education. I'm an administrator, a copy editor, and I'm passionate about my job as a teacher. I'm also an advocate for teaching smart, not hard. Welcome once again, everybody. For this webinar, stress-free teaching through strategic resource management, I have about 4 objectives. Please, can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So my objectives for this webinar are to develop strategies to maximize the use of instructional time, including efficient lesson planning, preparation, and assessment to avoid burnout. To discover innovative ways to create, adapt, and share low-cost teaching materials and resources with examples. Explore approaches for collaborating with colleagues and others. Gain skills to manage scarce financial resources and raise funds. So I hope that at the end of this webinar, I would have been able to show us, or we'll be able to gain from this webinar. So please, can we go to the next slide? Yes. I have 4 pictures here, 1 to 4. Which of these pictures represents your practice as a teacher currently? Kindly share your views on the chart, please, in the chat, please. The first one shows a teacher who is exhausted from work. Lots of exercise books on the table, and the students are still doing another classwork perhaps, and they'll still be adding those notes for marking. And then picture 2 shows a teacher who is poised to teach, ready to teach. Her table is organized with all her materials. Thank you very much. Abel says 3 and 4. Who says 1? Isn't says 1? Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Victory 1. Wow. Dinka 3 and 4. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're going to learn some of the strategies that can help us reduce our workload, make us more efficient. And I hope that at the end of 1 year, or maybe 2, we'll be like the teachers in pictures 2 and 4. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Why do teachers need to manage resources? As a teacher, why do you need to manage resources? Would you like to share your thoughts with us? What do you think? Do we really need to manage resources? Wow, Burkina Faso, Ibrahim, welcome. So why do we as teachers need to share or manage our resources? Do we have so much that we have to manage them? Thank you, Zeni from Ethiopia, for an effective classroom use. Thank you. To achieve our learning objectives. Great. Okay, keep them coming, please. Yes, we need to manage resources to make lesson efficient. Thank you, Maureen. Okay, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. What are your duties as a teacher? I have listed a number of duties or roles that teachers play in the school environment. For instance, as a teacher, I know that my primary responsibility is to teach, then to assess students' work, being form teachers. I don't know how it works in your context, but being a form teacher means that the teacher comes to class early, takes a roll call, and ensures that all students in that particular class are comfortable. You also work as a secretary. In fact, for staff secretaries, as soon as they know that you're an English teacher, no other person wants to volunteer for that task. And then sometimes too, you become the PTA secretary. Parents usually prefer teachers to take that assignment. And taking notes, you have to take notes during the meetings, and then you go back home and start putting the notes in order. You still have to prepare weekly lesson notes. You have to prepare materials for each lesson. Yes, serve as a counselor and guardian for students and colleagues. Thank you, Abel. You have to fill in diaries. You have to fill in the weekly record of work, attendance records. You have to set exam questions. You have to prepare reports or results for your learners. All of this makes it imperative for a teacher to manage resources. Thank you. Serve as class teachers too. Eukaria, thank you very much for that. So can we go to the next slide? Pre-preparing is important. Thank you. Okay, so what is resource and what is resource management? The Collins Online Dictionary defines resources as an organization. Sorry, the resources an organization or a person has, including materials, money, and other things that they can use in order to function properly. Then what is resource management? I like this definition given by this online source. It says that resource management is the process of planning, organizing, and controlling resources to achieve specific goals within a given frame of time. That's one of the definitions. I have another one in the next chart, and I like this definition given by a teacher. It says it is the effective planning, allocation, and utilizing of resources to achieve the desired goals and maximize efficiency. So for us to be able to manage resources, we need to know the resources we have available to us. We need to be able to plan, organize, control these resources in order to be able to achieve our goal, which is to teach, assess learners, and still be able to do other things we do, because as teachers, we also belong to families and we have responsibilities. Can we take the next slide, please? So what teaching resources do you have at your disposal? What teaching resources do you have at your disposal? Some of these are resources that we have around us, whereas some may not be available to us. Maybe like number 16, which is grants and external funding, may be difficult in some of the Sub-Saharan African countries. But I believe most of the resources I have listed here are available to us. For instance, instructional time. It may vary from school to school. Instructional strategies and teaching methods, yes, that may vary depending on the individual teacher. Curriculum standards and learning objectives. We also have classroom space and layout, personal knowledge and skills and expertise, collaboration with colleagues, online resources. We'll be learning a little more about these online resources and how we can make the best use of them. Okay, so let's take the next slide, please. When we talk about resource management, it actually begins with being able to classify and organize the resources we have. And I've been able to classify some of the resources listed in the previous slide into 5 categories. Instructional time, which includes the time we spend preparing for our lesson, the time we spend assessing our learners. Then we have collaboration with colleagues, support staff, other ELT practitioners or professionals and experienced educators. Then we have curriculum standards, learning objectives, the materials we use for our teaching, which includes textbooks, other supplies, newspapers, magazines that we use in the classroom. Then we have technology, computers, laptops, MP3 speakers, online resources like websites, apps, databases, and so on. And then we have the last one, money. In preparing for this webinar, I sent out a survey, and quite a number of teachers picked money as the most important resource they need as teachers. We'll be looking at a few ways that we can manage the resources we have and then perhaps raise additional funds to help us. Which of these resources listed or classified here do you consider the most important in your ELT practice as a teacher? Which of them do you think is most important for you? Would you like to share your thoughts in the chat? We have time, we have human resources, we have print materials, we have non-print materials, we have money. Okay, human resources, isn't it? Thank you. Yes. Values says human resources. Ifedayo says print and non-print. Zenith says online resources. Innocent, money and time and money. Iyabo, human resources. Great. Catherine, human resources. Okay, this is good. Thank you very much. Well, let's take the next slide. Personally, I consider time to be a very important resource for a teacher. Why do I say so? Because for everything we do as teachers, we require time. We require time to plan our lessons. We require time to prepare the materials, the instructional materials we need for the teaching. We need time to assess our learners. We need time to do everything. And it's not like this time is there at our disposal. We have all the time in the world. This time is limited, which is why I think time management is a very important resource for a teacher. I brought this Eisenhower matrix and the Pomodoro techniques that have worked in other areas of life, not just in education sector. So this Eisenhower matrix helps teachers to be able to sort out their activities, be able to tell which particular task is important and needs to be done immediately. So those are the tasks that we need to attend to first. So if we're able to sort out the tasks that we need now, that are urgent and they are very important, that we have to do them ourselves, that's very important for us as teachers. Then we'll be able to also look at the tasks we have that are important, but not urgent. So we can allocate future time for this task. Then we also have tasks that are not important, but they are urgent. So they do not personally, or they do not require our personal attention at that time. So we can delegate these to others. And then there are tasks too that are not important and not urgent. But as teachers, we know that every task we have, though it may not be immediately important, we would need to do them at some later time. This Pomodoro technique is one technique that I learned last year, and I think it has been very helpful to me because sometimes it becomes really distracting when I have so much to do and I have to finish them. It becomes a little tiring. But this Pomodoro technique works in such a way that after every 25 minutes, you'll be able to take a 5 minutes break. And it helps me keep track of what I'm able to accomplish in 25 minutes. And that helps me a lot. And I think it will be helpful for teachers as well, which is why I have shared it. Can we take the next slide, please? Yes. With so much to do, time seems to be the most important resource at the teacher's disposal. Yes, I've taken women as an example. We have so much to do. Not that the men don't have, they do too. But I just use this as an example. The woman has to take care of her family. She has to assist her children with the homework. She has to do laundry. She has to go to the market. She has to make the meal. And she still has to teach in the classroom. And she still has to prepare for her classes. So time seems to be the most important. How can we get the time we need to be able to do all that we need to do? Okay, Eukarya, I will explain that, please. So can you share your thoughts in the chat, please? How can we get more time for all that we need to do? Okay, planning, ordering priorities, thank you. Early preparation and planning, thank you. Setting priority, very good. Okay, planning, yes. Thank you very much. But planning in breaks, by careful planning, okay. Adjusting the curriculum, design planning, learning to say no respectfully. Thank you. Plan, have specific time for each activity. Yes, that is good. Discipline to stick to plan. That's great. Minimize time wasting. An excellent point there. Yes. Thank you very much. Prioritizing. Very good. Thank you very much for your comments. Can we take the next slide, please? Planning is important. Yes. Well, planning is very important, but then we still have 24 hours in a day. And sometimes we are so busy with work and we feel like they should add maybe 1 or 2 extra hours to the day so we can accomplish all we need to do in a day. Well, I think one of the things we can do to give us extra time and also be able to reduce stress on us is to buy out time from other activities. Buy out time from other activities. What activities can we buy time from? Lesson note preparation is one place we can save time on. Have we been able to use the GPT? Have you found it useful? I have found it useful. In fact, it takes less than 5 seconds. You have a full lesson note, which you can adjust, which you can edit, and even, okay, someone is saying they can't hear. Okay.
You're actually very audible. I guess the person has yeah, need to
Okay. Okay. Thank you
disconnect
very
and connect
much.
again. Yeah.
All right. So lesson note preparation using GPT, that's one technology that saves a lot of time. So if you are not yet familiar with how to use it, I have this video on my YouTube channel. The link is here. You can just check it out. I gave specific ways of using the GPT to prepare lessons. And it's such a handy tool that it makes you save so much time. You know, we usually spend 2 hours preparing maybe just one lesson note, and you have like 5 topics, 4 to 5 topics that you teach in English language in a week. So if you're able to use the GPT, you'd be able to save so much time. And then too, there are ready-made lesson plans on the Teaching English Africa website. I don't know if you've tried it. There are lessons for primary school teachers. There are lessons for secondary school teachers. There are lessons for teacher trainers as well. And they have videos, they have games, they have stories, they have poems, and you can pick whatever suits you. In fact, what makes it so much a great resource is the fact that you can even adjust it to suit your learners. Another way we can save time is setting questions, test questions and exam questions. Some schools in my area set up to 50 questions, that's multiple choice questions for one exam. Some set 80, depending on the standard the school has. And you'd have to think, you have to spend so much time trying to search these questions. Do you know that with GPT, you can set questions in the twinkling of an eye? So easy. I have this video too on my YouTube channel that you can check out. I use Cloud. I'll talk about it later. And then marking essays. As English teachers, when I started my teaching career, it was really hectic. I taught in a private school where I have to assign 2 essay topics every week to my learners, and there were more than 50 in each class. And I have to mark. The essay topics are given on Tuesday, they write them, I have to mark and return their notes on Wednesday so they can write another essay on Thursday. It was really, it took a toll on me really. So I learned to break essays into smaller chunks. So rather than write a full essay for me, I asked them to write the introduction. So if we're learning expository essay for this week, I take maybe just the introduction of that particular type of essay, and we do that. So I can mark it very quickly. And then the next time we're doing the body of the essay, and then the next time we're doing the conclusion of that essay. That way, the students are able to separate the 3 parts of the essay. They know where to stop at the introduction, where the body begins and where it ends, and where the conclusion begins and ends. So that helps me. If you could do that, it will save you a lot of time and stress. Next slide, please. Yes, examples on using artificial intelligence like the GPT or cloud. Like I mentioned, you can check out my the video I uploaded on my YouTube channel. Now for this open AI, you can just get any type of lesson note you want. All you need to do is be specific. For instance, there is a request, there is this number 2 point here shows specific prompts that we can give to GPT. Request anything you want. Provide all the details. For instance, please give me a 40-minute ELT lesson plan for pre-intermediate, that's 15-year-olds, about past simple tense in the context of African history, sorry. So if you can do that, or you can even say, please give me a 40-minute lesson plan on the topic of, let's say, adjuncts as adverbs. And I need a warm-up exercise, 2 filler exercises. I need a specific objective for this lesson, 1 general, maybe 3 specific objectives, depending on your context, 1 general objective, and 3 evaluation questions for this topic. And GPT will just provide you everything you have requested. Then you copy it and put in a Word document where you can edit. Okay. Okay, so you get your lesson notes in a few seconds. So if you're not satisfied with any part of the lesson, you can ask GPT to regenerate that part of the lesson for you, and it will give you. Other prompts here are, please give me an ELT grammar exercise for intermediate about future tenses. We'll see one example soon. Please give me a 200-word text about climate change in Sub-Saharan Africa with 5 multiple choice comprehension questions for intermediate teenage learners of English. And it takes such a short time that you think it is magic, but it's actually not magic. Can we take the next slide, please? Okay, this is an example of a question that GPT can generate for you. Now, I was mentioning the cloud. I use cloud because it has this special feature where you can upload a document. So for instance, you have already prepared your lesson notes, so they are there in your phone or in your document folder, your Word document folder. So you can just lift that lesson plan or lesson note straight to cloud and request for a specific number of questions from that particular lesson. So it is tailored to this lesson. It is tailored to what you have taught your learners. It won't go outside the notes you have given it. It will just give you exactly questions from that particular topic you have given. The only thing you have to be sure of is it has a limited number of megabytes that your document should be. It shouldn't be more than a particular number of megabytes. So you try to make sure that your lessons, you won't pack all the lessons, you won't, crowd all the lessons into one document and send. It may not be able to carry. So you split your lessons into smaller bits so that it can give you the number of questions you want. And that's one way that teachers can save time for other activities. And imagine that you're able to save this time. What next will you do with the time? Let's look at the next slide, please. Yes. Okay, human resources, collaborating with colleagues, collaborating with support staff, volunteer teachers, student teachers, and corpers. Corpers are in Nigeria. So how do you collaborate with staff to be able to help you reduce stress, reduce burnout? One way is co-teaching or team teaching. Now, we all know that we are not, we may not be experts in all the skills of English language. For instance, there are some who are very proficient in teaching grammar. There are those who are proficient in teaching listening, or perhaps writing, or even speaking. Can you arrange to teach with a fellow teacher who is good in this area? Can you also share resources with them, perhaps your lesson plans? Can you get from others? Can you get your peers to observe your teaching and then, give you feedback on what you're doing well and what you're not doing well? Okay, so what other ways can you think of? What else? How else can you collaborate with colleagues? What about support staff or volunteers, student teachers, corpers in Nigerian context? You can delegate responsibilities like small group instruction. Maybe instead of copying notes in the classroom, you could delegate it to a student teacher to ensure that the students copy the notes before you come to the class. That's one way of reducing your workload. You can also delegate non-instructional tasks like photocopying, data entry, typing, maybe even recording tests and exam scores to non-teaching staff. Can you partner to create engaging digital media, multimedia ELT resources? You can do that. You can talk with others who share your zeal, who share your passion, and you can create engaging multimedia ELT resources that others can use. Yes, collaboration is equally an excellent way to manage resources by leveraging on what others are doing. Yes, that's true. So if you can collaborate with colleagues, you find that you spend less time teaching. So you find less time doing too much. You can also have more time for yourself. Let's take the next slide, please. Yes, collaborating with students. Do you think that's possible? Can you share lesson notes with your students before a new lesson, maybe through WhatsApp or Telegram? Can you share printed lesson notes with students? I don't know how it works in your context, but I'd like to hear what happens in your own area. In my own context, is it really advisable to delegate a student to copy the teacher's note for other students? Well, that's what happens in many schools in my area. But in this case, I'm saying student teachers. Student teachers are teachers who are in colleges of education. They are training to become teachers, and they are assigned to different schools for, I think, a period of 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the school. They are there to learn practically how to teach. So they are usually assigned to teachers to assist them for the period that they will be there. For that period, they are given a class to teach. So yes, they can supervise students copying notes since they are already training to become teachers. Yes, teaching practice. Okay, so sharing lesson notes with students before a new lesson. During COVID, we had this coming up. We had, I think, student teacher are those students who are prepared to become a future teacher. Yes, that's true. So during COVID, we had the opportunity of sharing lessons with students. For those schools who did not have the Google Meet, who did not have this technology already, many of them taught using WhatsApp. Parents who had access, or children who had access to smartphones, or parents who allowed their children to use smartphones, we sent lesson notes to them to copy, and then we come to class to teach. Okay, so you can also use that this time to share your notes before the class with your learners. Group them. For instance, that's what I have done recently. I grouped the learners into groups of 5. Maybe 1 or 2 would have a smartphone, or their parents permit them to use theirs at home. So I share the notes when I get to my house, and then they copy before coming to school. One student copies into his note and he shares the note to others. So when I come to class, I spend more time explaining the lesson points and then giving them time to practice the skill that we are learning for that day. We can also share printed lesson notes with students. For instance, you print out the lesson notes and maybe paste them on the walls in the classroom, or you photocopy some of the notes and give to the different groups. Then they can copy before you come to class. When you come to class, it's just to explain the points for that lesson, the skills that you want them to acquire, and then they have more time practicing what skills you have outlined in that particular note. Let's go to the next slide, please. Yes. teaching learning resources. We have a lot now available to us: textbooks, supplies, technology, Google Lens, text-to-speech, text-to-speech apps. We have 11 labs, we have Speechify, we have MP3 speakers. Now, as teachers, I don't know what works in your context, but in my own context, I teach in a rural school, and majority of the learners find it difficult to buy the text. So teaching comprehension, reading comprehension is a huge challenge for me until I learned how to use Google Lens and other scanners to copy the text and turn them to speech. Initially, I used to photocopy the passage and share, but photocopying now is very expensive. So this Google Lens came in at a time that I really needed it. So I just copy the text from the passage from the book, I turn it into speech, and then I play it in class using an MP3 speaker. I just copy the questions directly on the board. So while they are listening to the passage, they are also reading the questions, and they're able to answer the questions. We have many online resources, websites, apps, databases, YouTube videos. Sometimes I pick videos from YouTube directly and teach. For instance, I wanted to teach vocabulary on finance at one time, and I was looking for something that would keep the learners engrossed for that 40 minutes. So I went to YouTube, and I just picked a video that had most of the words in the passage I wanted to use, and I played it directly in the class, and my learners were wowed by it. It was a great class for me that day, and I loved it. I think you can try it. YouTube used to have this feature that you can save from net, but recently I think there's been a ban on it. No, they no longer allow you to download videos outside. So, but you can download them in your phone that you can use even if there is no network. Once it is downloaded into your phone, you can use it when there is no internet. Then there are authentic materials like newspapers, magazines, and videos that we can also get for our class. Google Camera is very resourceful. Thank you. Since I teach in second grade, I mostly use YouTube videos and books. Excellent. Thank you very much. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes, some examples of free resources that we can use. I mentioned earlier that we can find resources in the Teaching English Africa website. There is so much that you can use from there. All you need is take your pick. Which topic do you want to teach? Which area of the language do you want to teach? And you can find resources there that will do a wonderful job for you. Okay, offline YouTube videos are highly resourceful. Thank you very much, Abel. Can we take the next slide? Money is one resource that teachers cry about. I know that because a lot of us earn very little compared to what we do, what we give out. So how can we save money? Now, talking about online resources, if you don't have enough data, it will be difficult for you, and data seems to be very expensive. So we can source for cheap data plans. In my country, you can use Ninth plans, and we have this package for 30 naira for 250 megabytes, and you can get up to 2 gigabytes for one night. So you can use that to download as many videos, as many resources as you want. Then you can also laminate the pictures you have used for this class. Instructional materials that you have used for this class, you can laminate them. And a cheap way to laminate is using sellotape. I don't know what you call it in your area. I'd like to hear what you call sellotape in your area. This transparent tape that you can use to cover the paper, and water cannot destroy it, and it cannot be torn. So you can use that, and then you save them for future classes. You can also recycle paper. If you have printed on the front side and the back is blank, you can use the back to print again, and that saves you money. You can also talk with friends and family who work with paper and can give you such papers for free or may sell it at a cheaper rate for you. That's one way of saving money. Then what about raising funds? As teachers, we can write. English teachers especially, we can write. So can you write ebooks? I think it's doing a lot these days. People are making some good money out of it. Yes, so many teachers in my environment would have given up on teaching. Yeah. So you can write ebooks, publish them in Amazon, publish them in all of these okay, seal tape. Thank you very much. You can publish them in all of these online sites and people can buy them. Can you also turn your passion into a source of income? Are you a good cook? Why not offer to cook for friends and family for free? And then with time, they recommend you to others who will pay and you begin to make some money out of it. There are other things that you can also do. So you can raise money for yourself. So can you tell me other ways? Can you tell us, share with us other ways that you have been able to raise money? Thank you very much. This is the end of the webinar.
Yeah, very impressive, Salome. And I would also like to mention your skills in sort of coming with good prompts for images. Since all the images used in the slides actually have been generated by Salome, you know, using AI. So maybe you can share a little bit more about that.
Okay, okay. Yes, yes, I use Canva. There's this part of it that allows you to use that generate pictures. So if you go to Canva app, you just go to the plus sign and then you click on it. Then you scroll right towards the end and you see magic media. When you click on magic media, it gives you a box where you type whatever image you want it to generate, and it generates 4 images for you. You know, 4 images for you. You select which one suits what you want, and then you choose it. But recently, I discovered that WhatsApp also is able to generate images, and some of the pictures I used here too were generated by WhatsApp. And I think it's if you update your WhatsApp Meta AI, you type whatever you want and it generates the pictures for you. You can explore it. Even producing resources for your class. Maybe you want to teach nouns. You can just say, please give me a picture or images of this noun, this noun, this noun, and it creates them for you. So you don't even really need to spend money generating resources like that.
Thanks, Salome. So I've just uh written in the chat now, inviting everyone who is here to ask any additional questions that they have to Salome in the chat. Otherwise, you can just raise your hand using the hand button, and then we'll actually invite you to speak. Yes, Linda just mentioned the question from Innocent. Yeah, I'm just trying to get to it. I think it was on top. Wait, where is it? Yes, so Innocent was asking, how do you effectively manage resources in large classes, especially especially if the resources are barely enough for adequate grouping of learners?
Okay. Well, it depends on the kind of resources you have or you have in mind. Um, you can share your phone. If the pictures are on your phone, you can go around the class and have learners look at them. Or you can print them out and paste them on the wall of your classroom. That way, learners are able to go, look at them perhaps before the class, or even after the class, they have the opportunity to look at these pictures and they learn from it. Like I have pictures at the beginning of every term, I post pictures on the walls of my class or the different classes that I take, the things that I believe that they should learn for this term. I post them. Maybe we're going to do something like um, auxiliary verbs, for instance, modal auxiliaries and how they are used. I just post them on the walls of the classroom. As they come to school, they look at these things. Every day they come, they get familiar with this, they practice the sentences, how to use them. And by the time I get to that lesson, it is just very easy for me to go through with it. Then you can also, for large classes, you can turn text to speech and use an MP3 player to play it aloud to the class. Even for very large classes, because the volume is quite high, you'd be able to reach as many learners as possible. And because you're doing something different from what you usually do, they would want to pay attention. Sometimes too, when I can't go with my laptop, I use a free phone screen amplifier. I use a desk, I raise a desk high, place my phone in front, behind the phone screen amplifier, and they are able to see. Although some of them have to stand, but they are eager to see what images you are sharing or what videos you are sharing with them.
Awesome, awesome. I've actually just shared the link to the webinar that you presented in January, which sort of,
Okay.
kind of, summarizes some of the ideas that you've just mentioned. We've got a question from Victory, and she's saying, how can you manage time when it comes to note copying, especially in a boarding school where the students don't have access to phones?
Okay. Like I said, you can print the notes and paste on the walls of the classroom, or you can group your students and give a copy of the notes to each group so they can copy the notes before coming to class.
Thanks, thanks. I think someone wants more explanation, about the Pomodoro technique. Maybe
Okay.
can you share a bit more about the technique? Let me just share the screen so you can also.
Okay.
I'm sharing the slide
Yes.
now. Can you see it?
Yes, that's the one. Okay. Yes, this Pomodoro technique is one that gives you a break every 25 minutes. So you have a task you want to accomplish. It helps you to be disciplined, to be able to sit down for 25 minutes and do something. And then at the end of 25 minutes, you take a 5 minutes break. So for that 5 minutes, you can stretch your feet, you can stretch your hands, stretch your body. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, the alarm goes off again to show that it's time to go back to your work. And then you go back, and start. You start again for another 25 minutes and you take a break for 5 minutes and you come back just like that. So by the time you complete a certain task, it gives you a 30 minutes break if you're able to sit down for that period of time. After many 25 minutes, it gives you a 30 minutes break. So you can do more than just stretch your feet. Perhaps you could take a bite, get some snacks and tea or whatever, and then you can continue your task. I've discovered that it helps me accomplish more. For instance, when I find marking very boring. So when I sit down to mark, I count a certain number of scripts, and then I set the Pomodoro, I put on the app, and then it starts counting. So by the time I mark, and it's 25 minutes, I count how many scripts I have been able to mark, and it tells me, oh, I'm making progress. So I'm able to mark until I complete that task of marking. So that's what the Pomodoro does. You can download it from Play Store if you use an Android phone. Okay.
Good, 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 good. Thanks so much. Any questions? We have a few minutes to go. Anyone would like to uh raise a question for Salome? we've got some good feedback in the chat. It's actually brilliant. So many ideas actually being shared in the chat. I think this is a way for just inviting everyone to, visit the chat and maybe look at other ideas that have been shared.
Okay.
Looks like you've actually covered a good deal today. I think people will have to maybe digest some of the information that you've shared today. And again, we thank everyone for connecting with us today. We will be sharing the link to the recording and the link to the slides in an email next week. So expect an email from us. We invite you all again to also complete the feedback form. Those who complete the feedback form will receive a certificate of participation. We'll be sending that email to you today. But in the meantime, we also invite you to connect with us on our Telegram group. We just actually shared the link in the chat, so you can also connect with other teachers across the continent and connect with our large, large group of teachers who also are there to collaborate, share ideas, and best practices in the realm of teaching. So thanks so much for attending. Thanks, Salome, for your presentation. It was a pleasure to have you again this year. And thanks for all the tips, strategies that you've shared, especially on time management, which is actually key for every teacher, who usually have stress related to the teaching practice. So goodbye for now. We will stop here and invite you all to our next event on the 4th of May, and we'll share these details with you very, very shortly.